if you're watching this right now, you've either followed me from my past dabblings in YouTube, you found me from my Instagram and or TikTok content, or of course you're totally brand new, have no clue who I am. So in this video, we're going to talk about my background, and then we're going to cover what this channel is about, what it's not about, and hopefully throughout that, I want to cover some of the fundamental principles that will kind of add context to the content on this page. So first things to get out of the way, if you followed me on Instagram and TikTok, you know I'm not a high production quality type guy. If you guys want that stuff, you know what to do. You need to share, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. But I'm not going to do all of that for, if nobody's watching the videos. So for now, this is also a new camera, so if the sound is insane, I'm not going to find that out until after I upload it. So now that that is out of the way, let's go into my background a little bit. So growing up, I grew up in Texas, which is an important factor because all the things that I'm going to talk about are influenced by me growing up in a very southern version of upper class spaces. And when we start to talk about upper class spaces, which I don't want to dive into right now, we will talk about how different regions do things differently, and of course different countries do things differently and things like that. So anyway, I grew up in Texas, and in Texas the private school system is very serious business. I went to private school, and my classmates were athletes, celebrity, or children of athletes, celebrities, otherwise just very, very wealthy people. And that's just kind of how I grew up. Obviously, in order to be in those spaces, my parents had a little bit of money as well. But when you're growing up in that environment, you're taught a lot of things. So of course, some of the things that I'll talk about on this page, but even things like, oh, you can never say that you're rich or wealthy or have a lot of money. You can say, oh, we're comfortable, which I'm sure many of you have heard people say that before. And then it's interesting because as you grow up, you have this skewed sense of money. And so, for example, I would go over to my friend's house because, their parent was an NFL Hall of Famer. Their house had like 10 houses. So I'm like, man, my house isn't that nice because it's not this. But then on the other hand, I might have, some family members or something, some cousins who come over to my house and they're like, wow, your house is crazy. And I'd be like, please, like, this is a shack. And so it's just a very interesting way of growing up. And so anyway, I go through all that, fast forward a bit to college. I went to Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee, which I think it's annoying to call it that, but people call it the Harvard of the South. And so again, that's why I put emphasis on the fact that I am from the South. We have our own little nuances that are different from the Northeast, because of course in the Northeast it's Ivy League or nothing. And a lot of people, Vanderbilt is a little less known than one might think, because again, it's a very Southern money type thing. Anyway, so I studied human and organizational development. I have a Bachelor of Science in that. And effectively what that is looking at how human psychology impacts businesses. Business decisions, hiring, purchasing, things like that. So that's what I studied, and that also influences the content that I'm able to make, because that's what a lot of these things are. It's understanding how people perceive things, how they think about things, and using that to improve your own lifestyle, career, love life, whatever it is that you want to do. So that was college. I graduate, I started working in corporate strategy. Some of you who know what that is, very difficult to get into. A lot of those jobs, if you don't go to a short list of schools, you can forget about it. Very rigorous application process, all that. And I work with a lot of C-suite executives. And so again, you have another layer of indoctrination, I'll call it, where they are teaching you certain things, certain etiquette, how to behave, social graces, and things like that. So we have a lot of layers going into this. I'm now 26, about to turn 27 in a couple of weeks, and several different angles of what all of these things mean. So that's my background. I generally don't like to get overly specific about things just because I've been on the internet a long time and I've gotten doxxed before. But I'm always happy to answer questions and things like that. So let's go on to what this content is about. When we talk about the upper class, the first thing that I want to say is, well, there's a lot of things I could say, I guess, but number one, I'm American. And so this is coming from an American perspective, of course. I know that everybody is not from America, but a lot of these same principles and things do apply because, again, a lot of it is just basic human psychology. And although the specific class systems may differ, all of this stuff really comes down to personal development. And a lot of people will not want to become actual upper class in the way that it's defined on this channel. Sometimes you'll get a foot in that door, you'll look around and say, ooh, I don't really like this. And that is totally fine. But guess what? You'll still have a lot more money, much better connections, a lot of the people that you're around that aren't doing anything for you, that'll be done. So there's a lot of benefit that you can get from this content, even if you're not necessarily aspiring to be a multimillionaire or anything crazy like that. So what do I mean when I say upper class? Especially because, again, in America, we don't have that super hard defined class system. In fact, everybody in America thinks they're middle class. You'll never hear anybody, even who's low income, say, oh, I'm lower class. Nobody says that in America. And then on the opposite side, you don't have people who say they're upper class. And so the terms of wealth and upper class and rich, all that stuff kind of gets a little bit muddy. And so what that means when I say upper class, the upper class is a very specific group of people who are wealthy, who follow certain traditions, have certain cultural values, as well as certain lifestyle. The upper class tends to be rooted in business, so a lot of their money is one way or another directly tied to businesses and business adjacent assets. And because of that, I would also maybe throw in politics in there, but I think they're really one and the same in America. So that group ends up also having not just financial, benefits, if you will, but also power. So you have the finances there, you have the power there, and you just have this overall network that allows you access to things that even people who are rich, maybe like a celebrity, that they wouldn't really be able to have. And a great example of this is, I'll use Mariah Carey. I love Mariah Carey, right? She's undoubtedly a legend, has done a lot of things. She's definitely like an A-list, really good celebrity, right? But every year when Christmas comes around, she's working. She's working really hard to make that money for the next year. And I think that is what it always comes down to, is the culture and lifestyle of being a celebrity or an entertainer or an athlete is always such that you are tied up in working because your money comes from you. In the sense that you have to go on that stage and sing to make the money. That's it. Whereas, of course, if you own a business, you can hire somebody else to run your business and you just sit on the board, come in every now and then, and you're still making all the money from it. You see how it's very different? I think there are a lot of misconceptions about the upper class, like things like, oh, people who are rich, they don't spend their money, they're frugal, or they never work, and all these other crazy things, which we can get into separately. But the point is, that is how we're distinguishing the upper class from people who just have money. And like I said, you might get into the door of upper class and say, oh, I don't really like these things, and decide to not engage. But at least you have the choice and you have the option, as opposed to it's just something that's being imposed by you because everybody's saying, well, you only make $70,000 a year and that's what you have to have for the rest of your life. I think the only other thing that I would add on to that point is when I say like the lifestyle and things like that, for me, it just makes sense, right? Because like I said, I grew up in it. So literally the things that I like to do are in line with that of like the upper class lifestyle that we'll talk about on this page. So to use very easy, basic examples, I like playing golf. I like playing tennis. I like going to charity balls and things like that. I love dressing up in suits. All of that stuff I just genuinely enjoy. I like the wellness trips. I already said, I work in business. I love all of that stuff. So it makes sense for me. If those lifestyle factors don't make sense for you, you don't necessarily have to aspire to be upper class. But it is still good to have a few connections over there. So for whatever it is that you are doing, you can always have somebody that you can call up and hopefully make things a little bit easier for you. Okay, so what this content is not. This is not fake it till you make it. This is not get rich quick schemes. This is not how to marry rich, which is a whole separate topic that we'll get into. It's none of that. If you think that you can just put on a fake Rolex and rent a Ferrari and that's going to get you money, that's not what we're talking about here. This is improving yourself this is about improving yourself, developing yourself so that you have the confidence to go in spaces where there is more money, so that you can go for jobs that have more money. It's so that you can feel more confident. And so whether it's becoming upper class or some other goal that you have, you will still be able to reach that by understanding the things that we talk about. So for example, some of the things we'll cover on this channel are clothes. Now, you already are thinking things about me based on what I'm wearing, based on my background. You would think something different if I didn't have the hat on and I had a different shirt on, or if I had glasses on. All of these things impact how people are perceiving you. And so you need to understand how that works. What are some other things? I think that's good for now. But the point is, this is going to go very deep. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's about behaviors. It's about how you talk. It's about how you walk. It's about your micro expressions when somebody is having a conversation with you. It's about improving your social skills in general. How do you walk into a room? When you walk into the room, do you command the room or does everybody ignore you? Things like that. And that is not something that you can fix in 10 minutes by going on eBay and buying something. That's also why it's not fake it till you make it. A lot of people are going to come up with a lot of things to say to you to deter you and act like it's so terrible and horrible that you don't want to make $70,000 for the rest of your life. And one of the things they tell you is like, oh, you're just faking to get accepted by this group. You're not faking anything. You are literally improving yourself, and you are just the same as these people in that room. You are refining your taste. You are growing into a better person. Somebody used an example that I really liked is some people, let's say they're a pen, like a pen, a writing pen. Some people say you are a writing pen. The only thing you will ever be able to do is write, and that is it. Some people say, you know what? I'm a writing pen, but if I wanted to, I could become a shoe. And I could just go walk around instead of writing stuff all day. And you know what? Maybe one day I don't want to be a shoe anymore, and then I'll just change into something else. It's called growth mindset versus fixed mindset. A lot of research has been done on this, so you don't even have to take my word for it. And so this is not you're going into these rooms, you're faking these things. It is you are literally improving yourself and deciding to be something else that is going to benefit your life more. On the last point, it's not like how to marry rich, but if that is your desire, you're not going to marry somebody who's wealthy by being a bum. Okay, that doesn't work. Like, I know a lot of women who think they can just, milk money out of men, even though they're a bum and they have nothing going for themselves. A lot of women do take that approach. We're not talking about that. So even for the ladies, this is about improving yourself so that whether you marry rich or not, you are still going to have the money. And again, I don't want to get into it, but obviously, I'm a bit of a talker. If you latch on to how to marry rich, at best, you're going to get a few benefits for a couple of months. At best. And then after that, you're done. You're disposable. So you need to be working on yourself so that you have a reason to be in these spaces on your own. And that is what this channel is about. So I appreciate you guys going on this journey with me. Again, if you want more content, if you want better content, if you want different topics, let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, share. You guys know the things to do at this point on YouTube. And if there's anything that you want me to cover in future topics, just let me know down in the comments.